wisdom ready to explore. At Jupiter Station, there's always more in store. From galaxies far to the stars so bright, join us on a journey as we...
Good evening, Sector 001. I'm TJ Yesnak, your host for the Jupiter Station podcast. Tonight's guest is a very special guest. We've heard a lot about him. We've heard a lot from him. He is currently the composer of most of what people call the new Trek scores. He is also one of the founding members of the rock group Tonic. Tonight, please let's welcome Mr. Jeff Russo. Jeff, welcome to the show. Little glitch there. So, welcome. Thanks for carving out some time for us tonight.
Sure.
I honestly did a little bit of research, and I said, "Oh, Jeff Russo. That's not Jerry Goldsmith. That's not what we've kind of grown to expect from Star Trek composers." And then I did some digging. I said, no way. I've been listening to you since I was probably 16 and never even knew it.
Well, that's a great way to make a guy feel old.
Well, I'm going to be 49 next week, so you're not really that old. But I gotta say, it's some good music you're putting out there. It's along the same lines as we've kind of gotten to know, but it's fresh. So not the same long, drawn out, epic instrumental. It's more, I want to say it's probably more relevant for modern Trek watchers.
Well, try to make things what they need to be today, not what they were before or what they will be later. Like we try to stay grounded in the now. And that includes, updating sounds, not changing, definitely, keeping an eye on paying homage to what has come before and hopefully creating something new for the future.
Like with the score for Strange New World, that's definitely you can hear the inspiration from the old Alexander Courage theme, but it's got a much more adventurous, upbeat sound to it.
I mean, yes, if you're talking about the main title theme, when I went to write that piece of music, the idea was, what would it sound like today, but what it is going into what Trek was, because Strange New Worlds is a prequel series. So we had to sort of stay in that mindset, which is why I took my lead from that particular thematic material. The courage theme is the arguably one of the most iconic television themes ever to be written, if not definitely the best and most memorable. So wanted to definitely take a leap from that into the this new theme.
Most definitely. And the Courage score, I mean, it's interwoven into literally every Star Trek theme that's ever been. So it's definitely one of the most iconic, like you said.
Yeah, he created the sound of Trek. Like, all we really need as composers of Star Trek is we just need three notes, dun dun dun, and that's really all we need to really pull the viewer into, oh, remember, this is Star Trek. Remember, come here, it's Star Trek. That's really all we can do.
Flame.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, did you do this kind of, oh, hey, this will be a fun project to do, or were you kind of a fan growing up?
Oh, I mean, so I wasn't, I didn't really get into Star Trek. My intro into Star Trek was the Next Generation, because that was when I was a teenager. Next Generation came out, and that was my go-to Trek. I had watched the early, the original series in reruns when I was really young. It was on Channel 11 back home, and then I did see the movies. I went to see, I didn't see the first movie in the theaters until after I had seen the second, Wrath of Khan, which, is arguably, it's my favorite. It's my favorite of all the films. It's my favorite of all the scores for the films. So, that was my sort of jumping off point. But I was a fan starting out. And when I had an opportunity to talk to the producers, Alex and the then producers of Discovery, it was incredible. Like, that they hired me to do it and write the theme for that and sort of create music for this new incarnation of what Trek was certainly like a dream come true, I guess. Certainly if I went in a time machine back to when I was a teenager and told that person that's what I would be doing, they'd punch me probably.
Like, nah, bro, no, get out of here.
No.
We're gonna be rocking the whole rest of our lives, man.
Maybe.
But that's teenagers. That's what we were. So,
right.
Do you have any say on, say, the new show that might be coming out? Is that going to be another Jeff Russo score, or is it kind of a collaboration?
When you say the next show, tell me what you mean.
The Academy.
It's not a secret. I think that at New York Comic Con they announced a date that it would be coming out January 16th. I think it's coming out. And yes, I've written the theme and the score.
Perfect. I'm very much looking forward to hearing that.
By the way, I think it's January 16th. They sent me the trailer, and on the trailer it said January 16th. So I could be wrong, I guess, but that was the trailer that I saw. That's everywhere now.
That was probably one of the craziest things that my wife has ever sent me via instant message. I'm like, wait, you're actually sending me something Star Trek? Oh, okay. This has promise. And honestly, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
It's a great show. The show is really good. The show is really, really good. It's a lot of fun. It's so much fun.
So I'm gonna get into like some background. I kind of skipped over this because this is my first show in probably 6 months, so I'm a little out of tune, no pun intended. But could you kind of give us a brief background of the life and times of Jeff Russo?
A brief background. Like I grew up as someone who just loved to play music. I was a drummer for a long time. And then I realized that I wanted to be a guitar player after I listened to The Wall by Pink Floyd and wanted to do that. And I became a guitar player, started a band, left home, came out to California, chased the rock and roll dream and made a record, made a second record, made a third record, toured around, had some hits. That was a lot of fun. And then decided to try something new, try something different, write music for storytelling, and got into doing that with a guy named Noah Hawley. And he hired me to do his very first show called The Unusuals. This is back in 2009. And then about 2 years after that, he told me we were doing Fargo. So then I did Fargo with him. After that, I just sort of kept working on things, got hired to do Trek in 2017. In the meantime, I had done something called Legion, which was a lot of fun. Some other television shows and movies all peppered throughout. And then sort of went in doing, I got to do Picard, which was a lot of fun, and then started working a lot with Alex Kurtzman, who's the architect of the universe that is now Star Trek on television. And he, we did some other stuff together, and now we're working on Starfleet Academy. In the meantime, I had just finished a little show called Alien Earth, which was a lot of fun to do, and here we are.
And I've seen bits and pieces of Alien Earth, and I've heard the music, and it is haunting and terrifying at the same time. So,
well, I appreciate that. That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Perfect. Now I've noticed you have a lot of sci-fi under your belt as far as composing. Before you hit the road to become a rock star, would you say that sci-fi, science fiction, things along that vein were kind of the things that you enjoyed to watch on TV or in the theaters?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I noticed Alien Earth. Oh my God, I can't remember the name. The Apple TV series.
For All Mankind?
Yes, For All Mankind. And obviously all the different shows, they kind of have like a fantasy or a sci-fi kind of spin to them. Would you say that growing up, some of your favorite things to watch were those epic sci-fi or fantasy films?
Yeah, I mean, I think, my favorite films growing up, Star Trek, Star Wars, E.T., those kinds of things, fantasy. But I loved it all. I loved action movies. I loved dramatic films and comedies, and I'm a fan of the genre, just of the, not the genre. I'm a fan of the entertainment type films and television. So but it's not surprising to me. It's not surprising to me that my work has gravitated towards those types of things, because I really like that background style, right? I like drama set against the backdrop of sci-fi, which I think is really really fun. So I think it's no surprise that I've worked in that genre.
Right. Now, would you say when you, not necessarily when you scored the fantasy or sci-fi shows, but when you specifically started scoring the Trek shows, did you kind of dip into each composer's paint can, as it were, and just say, well, take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and kind of mix it together and we'll see where it goes?
I mean, I don't really have one way of doing it. I don't really have a plan when it comes to stuff like that. Like I really think about story and feelings, and I read scripts and I see what comes out. I sit down at the piano and I just start to write,
All right. My oldest daughter is, for lack of a better term, she is a band geek.
Oh,
she's been playing music since she was 8. We started on the flute in elementary school, and she's a senior in high school now, about to graduate, and I'm so not ready for that. But she and I have kind of talked, and she's, I'm gonna guess, probably under strict protest, she sat down and she's watched a few shows with me, and every now and again I'll watch her and she'll listen to like the Strange New Worlds score, or the Discovery score, or even like going back to like the old movie scores and the Star Trek 2, Star Trek the Motion Picture scores, and I'll kind of catch her like tapping her finger, or she'll kind of like off in the corner she'll be like conducting. Is that kind of how you got your start with music? You kind of played with like a school band, or you just did it in the garage, and then you'll kind of keep up with the or
I did start in the school orchestra when I was in the 4th grade. They make you pick an instrument, and I I played violin for 6 months, and then I played clarinet for 6 months, and I hated both of them. Then I started playing drum, field snare in the orchestra, and that sort of tickled my fancy a little bit. And in 7th grade, it's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but in 7th grade, my dad died, and my mom got me a drum set, because what better way to take out all of your anger and aggression over the loss of your father than on a drum set? And I did that. And, so was I tapping along to, television scores and movie scores? And no, I was tapping along to Led Zeppelin records and Jimi Hendrix records and Cream and classic rock stuff that I really love, funk music and, all kinds of pop music at the time. And I started playing in a cover band. I started learning songs. I played drums with headphones, listening to Rush all the time. So that was really how I got my start in music and began my love of music, was like sort of sitting around trying to learn drum parts. And that led to me sitting around trying to learn how to play guitar parts. I was listening to, Jimmy Page play guitar and Dave Gilmour play guitar and was just, mind blown. And in that, I would, figure out what my own style was.
And that definitely puts a different spin on it for me.
Yeah.
Along that vein, you do this as work, but it's like the saying goes, you do something you love, you never really work a day in your life. Do you still find it relaxing, even though you do music composing for work, to just sit in the studio and just pick away at a guitar or, bang away on a drum or just perform music like you've been doing?
I'm not sure I understand. Like on my off time, do you mean?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you're busy, but like on that very small sliver of off time you have, do you find yourself kind of just going in the studio and just, playing away on whatever instrument you decide, and it just kind of still relaxes you?
No, I would say no. I mean, I listen to music, but I work a lot, so I'm not really playing or anything for fun that much. Sometimes I'll sit down at the piano. But that's it.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Now I'm going to probably round out the last part of our interview. I have been dying to ask you for years. The song "Mean to Me," was that written as kind of like something you had experienced as a teenager? Is that something that you wrote basically to kind of stand up for the little guy and kind of question like a bully, for example? Like, why are you going to do this? Or was it more like grade school personal?
Well, I didn't write that song. That was Emerson, singer in the band. And I don't really know the answer to the question of where the lyric sort of came from. Emerson tended to write music from his own experience. So but I honestly, I can't answer the question. I don't really know. Since I didn't write the lyrics in any of the Tonic songs. I can't. I don't really know.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
And aside from the Trek scores and the upcoming Starfleet Academy, obviously, do you have any records that might be coming out, or are you going to be scoring like more movies or things like that?
I mean, I haven't played with the band since 2019. They continue to play. There hasn't been any plan to make any new music with the band. I've been super busy with working on scores for different television shows and films and stuff. So there's been talk about it, but it's difficult because that's another part of my life that is always very near and dear to my heart. And at the Star Trek convention last summer, back in July or August, I performed a bunch of my scores with the Nevada Pops, and I asked Emerson to join me, and we played like 5 tonic songs with the orchestra. It was very, very nice. And when we did that, and I sat down and sang with him, and I hadn't done that in quite a while. It was an interesting experience. It was really great. Like, we hadn't experienced that of each other's artistic thing in a while before that. So it was an interesting experience, and I'm sure it did the same for for Emerson that it did for me. So who knows?
Right. And would you say, like, your years of traveling with Tonic or performing publicly, would you say, trying to figure out how to phrase this here, would you say that while you guys are on the road, or even if you're in the studio, you're kind of like a family on the road and in the studio? Like, you're just really, really good friends that are almost like a second family almost?
I mean, so for the long time that we did tour, yeah, I mean, you sort of become familial with the people that you tour with. I mean, I've known Emerson since I was a teenager. So we are like family for each other. But like I said, it's been like 6-7 years since I last played on tour with the band. And even before that, we hadn't really been doing much touring. We were playing shows on the weekends and sort of going out and doing short runs. It hadn't been since like mid 2009 that we actually went out on a full long tour. But yeah, that happens when you are on a bus with someone for years at a time. You definitely become familial, and we're like brothers in that way. And I don't know that'll never change, I don't think.
And you had mentioned earlier that you were at the Star Trek convention last summer. Were you able to experience that almost family-like element of the Star Trek fans? Like, you're not in front of the camera, but you're definitely an essential part of the show. And as such, like, you've still got that connection to Trek. And would you say the fans are just as welcoming?
Well, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, people have been really gracious and welcoming of what I have tried to bring to the universe of Star Trek. So it's interesting, it's a very different type of thing being a fan of a certain type of story and storytelling versus being a fan of an artist. I think that there's a sort of a different ideal behind the fanaticism of one versus the other. And I think because it's really different, it feels totally different. But I mean, I've been to a number of events that have included fans of Trek, and everybody is so kind. It's really interesting to find so much kindness between between people in the Trek fandom. It's really such a wonderful part of the fandom of any fandom for that matter, but for Trek it's really interesting, and it's really, really wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I'm going to start wrapping up here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to meet with us tonight.
Sure.
When I got the email from your agent this morning, I'm like, oh, 3:30, I'm going to be at work. And then I thought, like, no, I'm on the East Coast. That's Pacific. And the math just mathed, and I said, oh my God, yes, I completely forgot what time it was. Let him know, yes, I'm available. So I really appreciate you taking time out.
DriveByDoGooders.org is a grassroots 501c3 nonprofit charity serving the homeless of Los Angeles. Their mission is to ensure a bare minimum of support for those in the greatest of need, and do so by bringing hydration and hygiene to the heart of the homeless. Please consider donating, volunteering, or both today.
Hello, Sector 001. I'm TJ Esnak, your host for the Jupiter Station podcast. And today's guest is one we have recently seen. She's an actress, she is a scientist, and she is on our show today. Please welcome Ms. Olivia Youngers.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for taking time out today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I apologize. I wanted to be a little bit more put together today, but the day job persists in being the day job. So apologies.
Oh,
I'm still in my
I can understand the day job. So usually when I start these things off, I usually ask probably for a bio. It can be a brief one, it could be a long one. But can you give us kind of a background?
Sure. My name's Olivia Youngers. I am an actress. What you would know me from is Star Trek. I've done some other things fairly recently. I have a voice animation role I can't talk about yet because it's still not yet released, unfortunately. And I've been on Beyond Belief. I started, the acting bug really took over many years ago when I did some fun background work back when I was in school on a popular web show you may have heard of called The Guild by Felicia Day. Which was a great experience. I also am an aerialist. I perform locally in Los Angeles doing live shows and immersive theater here. And then I am also a biotech scientist. So, I never sleep.
Sleeps for the weak, you know that.
Rigs can do all the resting for me.
So that leads me to my first question. You're a bioscientist, and you've been on Star Trek. Are those two things connected?
The science background isn't what got me on Star Trek, but I do think it's why they put me in blue. So it did influence the role a bit, actually. When they were casting me, they were casting an ensign, and I was talking with Terry Metalis, and he was like, "Oh, do you have like a preference?" He was like, "Wait, what am I talking about? We have to put you in blue. You're a scientist. Done." So it wasn't even really a discussion.
Ha! See, it's not just the red shirts anymore.
Nope.
But you put up quite a fight. I will tell you that.
Yes. For a science officer, she really tried her best. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the showrunner is concerned, and the writers, who are the people who matter in my book, she's still out there serving on the new Enterprise. So, fingers crossed, someday we get a chance to see that.
Yeah, it only looked like it was a bad thing.
I have watched many. Harry Kim died 4 or 5 times on Voyager. I got shot in the shoulder. We don't know. So.
And you got patched up by Dr. Crusher. That's like almost as good as having Dr. McCoy himself patch you up.
Right? Exactly. Oh my God. I was so excited when I found out that I was going to get to meet her and be on set with her that day. It was just such a dream.
So I'm guessing as a kid you were a Star Trek fan. Probably still
Oh,
are.
big time Star Trek fan. Whenever people ask about that, I let them know, and this is true. I was watching from the womb. Like, I grew up in a house that was a Star Trek house, so it was always on. So I grew up. I've seen every iteration, from TOS clear up through to Prodigy. I actually have a batleth hanging on my ceiling above my head at the moment. And I went to my first convention as a kid so I could meet Jerry Ryan.
Oh, that is cool. You got to actually be in the same production as her.
Yeah, no, that again, I could not have asked truly for a better show to be on. To get to be on a show that combined TNG, which was like, you know, family to me. It was probably the first Star Trek I ever watched, just because that was my mom's favorite. And well, she loved TNG and TOS. And then Voyager, which was my personal favorite. Seven of Nine was a deeply personal character for me. So to get to be on a show that not only was Star Trek, but brought together those two crews in any form was just, I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity. I think you're frozen. I don't know if it's...
There you are.
Hello? Oh, sorry. I don't know who froze.
There you are. I think we lost the subspace signal on that one.
Yep.
But as I've told everybody who's been on Picard, you know, I had Todd Stashwick, I had Stephanie Chakowski, another one of your science people.
Yep, she's great.
Season 3 was probably the culmination thing that we as Star Trek fans were looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we got the Picard and Crusher, we got a child with Picard and Crusher, we got Jerry Ryan, and we got Tuvok, and we got everybody all in one season.
Yeah, no, it truly was. I was so thrilled that Tim Russ was on too. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but when I saw his name on the call sheet one of the days, I was like, oh my God, like, it's not just Seven of Nine. They're bringing in Voyager characters. So the only thing that would have made it better is if we had gotten to see Captain Harry Kim, you know, but unfortunately there was only so much they could cram into the one season.
This is true. Do you play Star Trek Online at all?
You know, I tried to play Star Trek Online, and I just couldn't quite get into it. I don't know if it was an earlier iteration of the game. I struggled with some of the battle mechanics, so it didn't quite grab me, but I am very familiar with the game. I know some of the storylines and lore and characters and things, so I know that they pulled the Enterprise F, for example, into Picard Season 3, which, you know, caused some ruffled feathers after its fate. But it was, I think, nice for a lot of the STO fans to get to see their ship at least on screen as canon. So.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the Star Trek fan club that I'm a member of, our chapter is called the USS Nathan Hale. And we were featured in the opening episode of season 2.
Oh,
like
nice.
when that Borg thing was coming through the rip in space, the Nathan Hale was one of the ships that responded.
Oh,
and
that's
I didn't
cool.
find this out until my chapter president sends me a screenshot with a little red circle around it with a message. What the hell did you do?
I truly love when Star Trek is made by people who love Star Trek. They just pull in so many of those kinds of Easter eggs that are so great for us as fans to get to just, you know, enjoy. It's so lovely.
And being a geek, it was definitely a football to Spike.
Yeah.
Like I looked at my brother who has been watching Star Trek as long as I have, and I said, "Guess what, mother lover? I am the king geek."
Oh no. Well, he's just gonna have to try to one up you now.
He's like, "No way, there's no way you got that there." And he actually watched it and wrote it down.
Amazing.
So, you said you're in biotech.
Correct.
What made you want to go into biotech?
Actually, partly Star Trek, to be quite honest. I knew I had a deep love for science. Again, I think fostered especially by Voyager, because Voyager was such a special show for me as a young girl who had been falling in love with Star Trek and being like, okay, let me watch all these shows, and seeing women in all of these positions of authority, Seven of Nine running astrometrics, B'Elanna Torres as chief engineer, even the fact that Janeway, who was a captain, had been a science officer before. And that combined with a lot of other things as a kid, that existed to get us invested in STEM, really helped me love and think of science and math as cool. And I think initially I wanted to be like an aerospace engineer. But then when I went to high school, I really fell in love with biotech. I had an amazing teacher who really fostered that for me. And as I dug deeper into that world, it kind of clicked like, oh yeah, there's a future where you're fusing these things, right? Like I thought of the biogel packs and the bioneural pathway that they used for Voyager, that infamous episode where Neelix makes cheese and gives the ship a cold. And I just thought that kind of stuff was really cool. And so I wanted to explore that. And so that's what I did.
Wow. I mean, I never in a million years would have thought about the bioelectric goo that would stem right into the career of biotech. But that makes a lot of sense now.
Yep, absolutely. Even the Borg as a fusion of technology and biology, right? They were constantly trying to evolve past it, but I thought that was really neat and interesting. And so, all of that fostered just like a love for science fiction. I was a voracious reader of science fiction too. And so it was inevitable that I was going to love both art and science. And then it was just, I guess, thanks to a good teacher and fostering that interest.
Do you know if that teacher has seen you in Star Trek at all?
I don't. He definitely retired a while back. I had kept in touch at one point, but it's fallen by the wayside. So I hear periodically from a professor who I actually never took a class with, but had gotten to know because I also write poetry, and he was the poet laureate at my university eventually. But I don't keep in touch with most of my professors at this point, or teachers. I think most of them have retired or moved on.
Or you're just so darn busy, like you said, you don't sleep.
Yeah, that too. That too. I think I may have lost you again. Shoot. Hello?
There we go. Here I am.
Okay, there you are. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's my connection. It might be. Some days it can be a little spotty for streaming. I think I lost you again. Shoot.
I got to give it more power, Captain. Hold on.
Very good impression.
I switched to the booster on the internet. I think we're better now.
Okay, cool. Great.
Like, okay, she blinked out and I blinked out. Okay, let's check the internet.
Sounds good.
So, I forgot where I left off with that technical glitch.
We were talking about just being busy and teachers and school and fostering interest in STEM in kids.
That's right. And then I was about to ask you, and then subspace comms went down. You got to go to Star Trek Las Vegas this year.
Yes, I did.
How was that?
It was great. It wasn't my first time there, but it was my first time there as a guest sitting at a table signing autographs. So it's just super surreal to be on the other side of things. Again, as someone who grew up as a fan, I mean, as a little girl who like clutched her paper and pen to get Jerry Ryan to sign something. Picardo too. He was at the same convention that she was at, and that was just such a delight and a treat. And it's fun too because it's like you're seeing friends who you know from various circles from growing up loving Star Trek, and then getting to see friends who'd worked on production. You know, saying howdy to Stashwick, who, you know, he and Terry had been off busy in London for months and months. So seeing that they survived that time filming the upcoming Vision series, which now I guess we all get to hear more about. Getting to meet people, you know, it's just, I love it. I think Star Trek fans are some of the best fans in the world, and I say that because I'm one of them. So it's entirely self-serving, but I do, and it's great. And I love, you know, it can be hard online interacting with fandom sometimes. I think it can get really toxic, but when you're in person at a convention, people are, I think, so happy and excited to be in a space sharing something they love. It reminds you of like, yeah, this is what fandom is supposed to be. Even when you disagree about stuff, it comes from I think a better place when you're gathered together and actually talking in person.
I see the same exact thing. I had talked to Stashwick about it, and he said the exact same thing. He said there's no nicer people at the conventions than Star Trek fans. They're polite, they're respectful, they're committed. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I got the chance to go to the Rhode Island Comic-Con last year, and
nice.
I was there actually as the director of recruiting for the fan club that I'm part of. And I walked into the exhibit hall where all the celebrities and writers were in their table areas. And I waited in line for Michael Dorn, and I waited in line for Jonathan Frakes. I almost called him William Riker. Wow, okay. But I waited in line for Jonathan Frakes, and I was wearing my Starfleet uniform. And he looks over at me and he has the biggest smile and says, "Commander, come on over. How are you?" And, you know, I've got a smile from ear to ear going, holy crap, Captain Riker just called me Commander.
Right? Isn't that the best? Frakes is so fantastic.
And then I walked back out to where we were, and I said, guys, Captain Riker just called me Commander. And my chapter president's like, yeah, that's what's on your collar. I know, but he Commander. Right. Because it's on your collar, teacher.
Because it's on your collar.
It was one of those surreal experiences. Like, wow, he's really being nice to me, and that's the way a lot of the Star Trek celebrities are. They're legitimately nice people. They're happy to see their fans. They're not rude. I've heard stories from like older Trek talent, but things happen, things are misunderstood, so I take all that with a grain of salt. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, too, fans, talent, we're all human. Everyone has a bad day. So, you know, sometimes there are people who just didn't get enough. You know, everyone has a bad day. Everyone has a day where they're not at their best. But I truly have never heard anything like heartbreaking about anyone involved in the fandom at these cons. So it's great.
Now, as far as you know, there are celebrities who do good with their celebrity. Like, you know, John Bon Jovi does a lot of charity work. Or
right. John Billingsley does a lot of outreach and charity work. I know he does. He has some charity work that he does at the Vegas convention year after year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, and Katie Swink and Armin Shimmerman, they do the pancreatic cancer walk every year.
They do.
Is there a charity that's near and dear to your heart?
I tend to work a lot with like local groups and mutual aid groups in my community. I think that that's the best way to make the most direct impact personally. And I encourage folks to do that, especially right now. You know, things are really scary and intense for a lot of our neighbors and friends. And likely will be scary for a while. So I will always try to get involved in any of those groups that are doing good in my neck of the woods, kind of a thing. I've done various charity fundraisers over the years. My previous company used to do charitable donation matching. So I would do fundraisers just myself through Instagram with fans and folks who interacted with me, who supported my art in various forms to raise funds. So that way we could maximize out that donation max through my company. At Vegas this last year, I did a raffle to raise money for a local group here that does mutual aid work and outreach for immigrant families, Hispanic families in Los Angeles that were affected by the ICE raids. And so that was really great to do. I realized I have all these collectibles. Why not raffle something off and do some good while we're here? So that was great, and folks seemed to really enjoy it. So yeah, that was with the limited edition Murph plush from the New York Comic Con a year or two ago. I forgot what year actually they released that. Still strange to me that the merch people never released a plush Murph to sell to kids, but it worked out in my favor for the raffle. So that was great.
Well, there you go. That being said, there's actually a charity that I'm kind of close to you,
great.
called by Do-Gooders.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually run by Ensign/Captain Sonia Gomez.
Oh, that's awesome. You'll have to send me that info as well.
Definitely. I'll probably pop that in the email after we're done here.
Please do.
As far as more Trek, obviously we've heard that there's more coming down the pike, and we're looking at Star Trek Year One with the first Captain Kirk's adventures.
Right.
If by some miracle Skydance finds the funding for it, and there is in fact a Star Trek Legacy, you totally want to be on it.
Oh, absolutely. I expect, listen, I will start mailing Terry Matalas letters myself daily and harass him until I get on that show if it happens. But Legacy, I think, is probably very, very much a long shot at this point. I think, it sounds like there are different directions that they're going with Trek, which is still very exciting. And even if Legacy doesn't happen, it's a big universe, so there will be a lot of other great things coming down the way. I would be thrilled for Legacy. That would be the dream show. I would also be more than happy to come in as someone new on a different series if that opportunity ever presented itself. We have a lot of a legacy on Star Trek, which I think is also really special about that whole franchise of actors who come back and play different roles. Because when you're playing in a universe where there are limitless alien species, you can kind of do that. So I'm open to any and everything Star Trek.
Or play yourself twice, like Nick Locarno and then Tom Paris.
True. Yes. That was an interesting retcon that they did there.
I'm like, wait a minute. That looks an awful lot like Nick Locarno. And lo and behold, like you said, they retconned it right through Lower Decks. Yep.
And that's, Star Trek gives us opportunities to do that. So, sorry, hold on. My dog is crying at me. I'm going to just let her out of my room in case that's what she wants. Do you want to leave? You want to leave? You want to stay? What do you want? She just wants me to pay attention to her. That's what she wants.
A dog that's part cat.
She is a bit. She's actually named after Toby the Targ. Yep. I named her after a Star Trek character as well. So.
Wow, you have your own pet Targ.
I do. I have my own pet Targ.
is there anything, if you got the chance to tell your fans that you want to tell them? Like, obviously, thank you is like the first thing, but is there like an inspirational message or anything like that you would impart to them?
I think, yes, obviously, of course, the first thing is just thank you. Thank you for being Star Trek fans. Thank you for being not just fans of Picard, but fans who fostered a community for me to grow up in and loving Star Trek. Like, I truly appreciate fans from every angle. With respect to Star Trek, I think just whatever happens with mergers, whatever happens with, if the show you love gets canceled or doesn't get picked up or whatever, just remembering that, like, the fans are what have kept Star Trek going. This franchise truly exists today because fans never give up on it. And even if tomorrow Skydance came in and said, we're shutting everything Star Trek down, that wouldn't be the end of it. I know it wouldn't, because we have games online. I remember playing play by email RPGs for Star Trek before STO existed.
You really are one of us.
Yeah. What's the acronym? Play by email. It's PBEM. Or I don't know. It's like a long acronym. But I did do that for a while. So regardless of whether or not there's a show that's your show on right now, it's such a big universe, and we've created so much space for all of us to play in and find things to do. So just never give up on that. If something that you want doesn't exist, start making it. You never know, it could end up on season 2 of Picard. You don't know. So I love that about us and limitless creativity. And then, another important thing is just vote. Take care of your community right now. We need that more than ever. It's okay. I think that's the other message I would want to give. Toby, stop. She hears squirrels outside. Sorry. Targs need the hunt, what can I say?
Always the squirrels. Well, Olivia, I won't take up any more of your time, but I really thank you for popping in and seeing us.
Thank you for having me.
Hang loose for just a second. After I clear us out of here, I'll meet you in the green room and we can kind of discuss the housekeeping things.
Sure, fantastic.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm TJ Esnak, and this has been Olivia Youngers, and we'll be back with more after this. Hello again, Sector 001. It's TJ Asnak, your host for the Jupiter Station podcast. And tonight we have a very special guest tonight. She has been on, most notably, Star Trek Discovery, seasons 3, well, half of season 3, season 4, and season 5. Please welcome to the studio tonight, Blue Del Barrio. And my apologies, I got your pronouns wrong. I had a momentary lapse.
Heard, understood. No, thank you.
I've asked everybody who's been on the show, can you give us kind of a rundown of like your bio, basically?
Yeah. I mean, like how I joined, or like the character, or
yeah, kind of like, you know, growing up, going to school, what made you want to do acting?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up here in California, around like the Topanga Canyon area. And I started theater really young. There's a place in Topanga called the Theatricum Botanicum that does like Shakespeare mainly, with adults and also with kids. And I started there like around like probably 7 or 8. And kind of just ran from there. I mean, bounced around to different things, but stuck with theater really hard. And then around high school, started realizing that I really wanted to do film, like film and television, was watching so many films, and started trying to do like student films on my own, auditioning for like student films around, because we've got like UCLA here and other places. So there were a lot of students doing that. And for college, I like, parents really wanted me to go to like just a general college, and I really wanted to go to conservatory, like a theater conservatory, and auditioned everywhere, did all of it myself, and ended up going to the UK for college, at Lambda, which is a theater conservatory, and was like the most intense thing I ever did, but I loved it. And that helped me in my last year find an agent who helped me. It was really lucky, I think. I mean, I worked really hard, and I'm really proud of myself to get where I did, but Star Trek happened. Like, I auditioned for my season, the one that I joined, when I was still finishing my third year of conservatory. And I mean, I had been auditioning all year, but that was a lucky thing. That was a big thing to, and it was only one audition, which was also crazy. Usually there's a lot of callbacks, there might be chemistries, there might be other things, but this was a one audition, and they were like, you're gonna go to Toronto and you're gonna start in August.
Wow, that's nuts. Like, you're in your third year of conservatory and you're auditioning on a completely different continent, and that's just got to be nerve-wracking.
Oh, it was really intense. And yeah, I graduated in June, and then I was in Toronto in August, and that was very scary. And there's so many people that were on Discovery that I was already really big fan of, so that was also terrifying, and kind of caused a lot of imposter syndrome, and like just freaked me out. And but originally we didn't know how long Adira was going to be there. And I think it was the same for Gray. I think they had a really like structured, good, solid storyline for maybe a few episodes. And then we didn't know if it was going to continue from there. And it did, which I'm really happy about. And I think that spoke to like how we were with the rest of the cast, how we were together, and our like relationship with like our producers, who I loved. And I'm happy that we got to like stick it out and stay, because that was, to this day, I think the coolest group of people that I've worked with. There's just so many different kinds of people were on Discovery, and a few people that I've looked up to since I was little. I mean, Anthony, I was watching videos of Anthony singing when I was, 11, 12. So that was insane.
And he
But
was in Rent, right?
yes, yeah, original cast of Rent, and I mean he knows this and but hates that I say this, but like, yeah, I didn't live in New York and I wasn't there when that happened, so I absolutely watched probably a bootleg of that when I was really little, which is not great, but I'm glad that I saw it because that was, you know, definitely part of what got me excited about theater and about musical theater, which I've also did a lot of, and like, uh, yeah, I don't know, that original cast of Rent that he was a part of is also so unbelievably special and unique, and like, and he's so young in it too, like he really, like, I don't know, he looks like a baby, but it's incredible. Yeah.
So let's touch on that imposter syndrome. So for some of my viewers who aren't quite Google savvy, um, basically what is imposter syndrome, especially as it relates to like you being on Discovery?
Yeah, it I guess, and I'll speak to like this situation specifically, I guess, with like being an actor or a performer, and um I don't know, I think I got put into a cast, into a show that has a really big history. Star Trek is huge, it's massively important to a lot of people. Um into a cast with a bunch of actors who have been working forever. Like the majority of them have so many jobs under their belt. They've worked kind of all over the map in different areas. And then I was joining as somebody who this was their first professional job. So imposter syndrome is sort of like feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you don't have the skills that you actually probably in reality already have. Um, it's just feeling like you're maybe not good enough to be in the place that you're in or in the job that you're in, or when in reality you probably have everything you need to be there and you're there for a reason, and um but it's hard to like get rid of, and I was really happy that I had Ian there too, because that was my first real like friend there in Canada was Ian, and helped me a lot with a lot of these like freakouts and panics. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're such an all over the map cast that have done so much work. I mean, Doug Jones alone, like that is like,
The
I
man
don't
of a
know. It
million
was just
faces.
exactly. So it was like extremely stressful, and it all of a sudden, even just having been through the most intense like 3 years of my life in terms of how much work I was doing in school, specifically acting, only acting. It's like all that went out the window, and I was like, I haven't done enough to be here. I'm not good enough to be here. Like it's all that, and it happens to so many people, like, but
You're like, oh my god, how the hell did I get here?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It
what
fully
if
was
I mess
that.
up?
It was like,
And it's probably one of the ways you get inside your head the worst.
yeah, and it feels like, oh, this was a fluke. They made a mistake. This was like all of that stuff. But it went away pretty quickly, like relatively quickly, I think, after I'd done like a couple episodes and gotten to know people and talked about it a little bit. It's such a common thing that I feel like everyone has at some point in their life. Um, and I was prepared. I was so beyond prepared, and it just was scary.
Well, the important thing is, I think you really made an impression on um, Akiva and Alex, and they obviously called you back for 2 more seasons. So clearly, you had the chops.
They were, yeah, and I love, because we had Alex and Michelle, and they were incredible, and I love them, and I like, especially having spent a little more time with Michelle Paradise, I really, I connected with her a lot, and I she really fought for me in every avenue, and they both were, especially surrounding all of anything to do with gender and Adira. They came to me and they came to Ian and they talked to us, and they got Glad involved here, which is amazing, and Nick Adams, who's the head of that, and they all just made it a very open conversation. And so I got to have input on like what that sort of coming out scene looked like and the language that was used and if I was okay with all of it. And that was awesome because I feel like it's very rare to get the opportunity to have any kind of input on script and on, you know, the choices that they're making. So it was.
I'll be honest, Blue. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna screw something up, and like 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh no.
It's okay. Like it happens to everybody, and like I feel like you did what you like is supposed to be done. You just like correct it and move on, and like that's it. Which is, you know, I think people get really in their head about it, or you know, get like overly apologetic, make a big thing out of it, and it's like, no, you correct it and you move on, and like that's totally fine. If it happens, and it happens to so many people, especially like, I mean, especially for people around my age or younger people who are going through this stuff when they still have their parents in their lives. I mean, you're hearing your parents mess it up all the time for a while. So it's like, it's not alien and it'll happen. I think it's just, I like to spread that as much as I can of like, hey, if it happens to you, correct it quickly, move on. That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
My oldest daughter was actually who brought this to my attention, because when you're in high school, you know, that's when you get to know who you are. And I think one day she just hauled off and said, you know what, Dad, I'm non-binary. These are my pronouns, and this I went that way, and this I went that way. I'm like, huh? What? And I tried so hard to understand it, and the more I tried, the harder it was to understand it. So I'm getting to a point where I can start kind of seeing this stuff, and I can understand it and wrap my head around it and not make quite as many faux pas. They still happen, but I'm trying at least. So like you said, that's pretty much the first step.
Yeah. I mean, trying is always the first step. And I think ultimately it's people, anyone experiencing anything surrounding their gender, I think it's the frustration comes a lot of the time because people are not seeing you the way that you are seeing yourself. And that can be that can affect you negatively a lot more than I think the general public realizes. To have it like continuously happen, and then coming out on its own is really difficult, like extremely difficult. So it's all hard. And in a perfect world, in a perfect future, in the kind of future that I guess we had on the show, which was really lovely, is that it happened. It was an easy conversation. It was pretty quick and painless. And then that was kind of it. And everyone kind of moved on. And that I would hope that somewhere in our future as human beings, I don't know if it's going to be sooner or later or when I'm not here anymore, I hope that it looks more like that. Because it's, I don't know, it's like, it's rough. And it's, I don't even need to say that it's rough. Everyone knows that it's extremely rough right now, especially, but it should not be this much.
I'm like, what the dystopian future are we looking at here? Like, what? Like,
yeah,
we were doing okay 2 years ago, and now we're like back to like -0.
It's a fear for sure. It's a fear of, I don't know. I don't really know how us as people got where we did, but we have made everything so clean cut and like so boxed in a way that isn't really super helpful to us, and people are so much more diverse than the cookie cutter that we somehow got ourselves into wanting everybody to be, but people are so much more diverse than that. And I think even more diverse than we are, expressing now, if we didn't have the stress of expecting a negative response when we do express ourselves. Like, I think people would be so much more open to exploring more of who they are and exploring things about their gender, their sexuality, if we didn't all fear the blowback from the rest of society for anything that we did surrounding that. I think it'd be so nice if if we could have a little bit more, like, I don't know, if exploring didn't seem so dangerous, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I think a lot more people would do it. Yeah, I think a lot more people would do it, and it wouldn't be such a, like, do or die situation. Because
I think that's the problem right there that you touched on. It's like you have two polar viewpoints, but like the actual reality of it is somewhere between those polar points, and nobody gets nuance anymore. It's always, this is my side, and you're either with me or you're against me, but nobody sees anything in the middle, and the middle is where literally everything happens.
Yeah, it's gotten really extreme. We've made everything really extreme for some reason. I don't know if it's like control or something, but I mean, truly, with all of this stuff, it's like so exhausting to look at, because if you're not if you are not wanting to be involved with anything surrounding queerness at all, if you're one of those people, whatever I do isn't going to affect you. Like, that's the exhausting thing. Is like, you are going through to such lengths to try and make people like us not exist or not be seen, where in reality, when we are here, and we are here, we're not affecting you in the least. We're not doing anything to you. We don't got to talk to you. Like, it's yeah, I don't know.
People just can't seem to, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use a term from when I was a teenager a long time ago. Like, people just can't seem to mind their neck. They're always busy, concerned about what somebody else is doing, but they're not worried about what they're doing.
Yeah. And it all got very politicized, which is what has turned it into like a giant nightmare for the rest of us. And that has taken people to like extremes about it. But the reality is that we've all always been here, and now it's just been very politicized, and so now everybody's got a really extreme take on it, and it's dangerous. It's just flat out dangerous. Like, it is causing massive amounts of harm. It is causing massive amounts of attacks, both online and in person. People getting physically attacked, physically injured, people's mental health's completely falling apart because it is so scary to be living through this. The damage it's doing is like unbelievably terrifying. And so talking about it like this is really important. But it's hard to advocate and be in the middle of it and stay informed and like do as much as you can and not have it affect your mental health kind of in a bad way. And I've had to kind of figure out when to step in and when to step out, just to kind of keep myself a little bit sane, because the advocacy I love and the staying involved I love, and I want to be there, and I want to be loud, and I want to be present, and lifting up people's voices who need them to be lifted up. And then sometimes I forget that I am part of the population that is under attack right now, and then I remember, and it's rough. It's rough to be like, oh yeah, this is about me, and this is what people are saying. It's hard for that stuff not to get to you and make you feel terrible. So
my wife, and I love her to death. She reminded me actually the other night, there are times when I find myself reading Facebook, and I'm probably going to read Facebook a little less now, and if I do, I'm not going to be quite so knee-jerk response. But I see something that I know is wrong. Like, I can clearly tell that somebody is bullying somebody right there in front of me. And rather than clicking the little button that says report to admin or report to Facebook, I open the door and I step in with both feet. And I usually met with a much nastier response than I was anticipating, which ramps up my response, which ramps up her response. And my wife said, so what have we learned to engage? She said, kill him with kindness. I said, but I don't want to kill him with kindness. I just want to kill him. And when I get this look, I'm like, I mean, I just want to make them stop. She said, and you're not going to make them stop if you engage them. You're going to give them more energy and more fuel, and they're going to do it more. I'm like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I saw a really interesting video this morning, as a matter of fact. And it's the governor of Maryland and the governor of Utah. And they're both standing together and they're saying, he's a Republican. He's a Democrat. He's black. He's white. And they're going back and forth. And you can tell that they are on two opposite sides of the conversation. And they said, but you know what? We're friends. We're both fathers. We're both college basketball fans. And they gave each other, a fist bump. And they made a good point. We don't have to be so argumentative about everything. We can have different opinions and we can be civil about it. And I think a lot of that civility has been lost, especially in the world of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, because, everybody is a keyboard warrior now. Oh, I can say whatever the heck I want because it's just words, but the words still hurt.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid and I said something dumb, there was like a 9,000% chance that the person I was saying something dumb about was going to cold cock me. Well, sure enough, they did. And, here I am behind the school, passed out unconscious because he just knocked me out. I wake up and we're friends because we settled our differences. Not the ideal way to settle differences, but, that's just, kids in my generation, that's how we settled stuff. Like, oh, well, you were dumb. Wham! Oh, I was dumb. And you learn. But now we've got people doing this stuff online and there's no way to get any recourse. And unfortunately, it does cause a lot of those emotional responses, and the anxiety goes up and the depression goes up because there's no civil discourse going on.
Yeah. No, it is really harmful, and a lot more harmful even than you anticipate that it's going to be. I try to never respond to anything on any, like, if it's actually like a dangerous thing, I will just delete it and report it. But like, I think the thing that I try to live by is like, nothing will get solved on an online platform. That may or may not be true, but at least it keeps me from getting into those arguments and getting into those back and forths where I might get more hurt than I needed to be, because there's always going to be people who are on there that are saying some really nasty stuff, and responding to them in any way, especially the nastier it is, probably won't get the outcome that you want. And it's hard. So I feel like it's easier to live by the, like, nothing will ever get solved in a comment section of something.
Like I've posted plenty of things about the stuff we see the current administration doing, and I've said things as simple as, well, there goes the Constitution, that was nice, or somebody forgot all about the Posse Comitatus Act. And friends of mine that I have known for 30 something years will fire back, oh, well, how does it feel to be a liberal? Like, well, time out here. Like, I'm not a liberal, I'm a centrist. I am the middle of the road guy. Like, hold on here. Like, This is per the Constitution. He's not doing it. This is what the Constitution says about this. Oh, look, he's not doing it. Like, I'm not wrong here. Like, I got like a 5-page instant message to a friend of mine from high school, and I had bullet points. I'm like, well, this is happening. That's wrong. This is happening. That's wrong. Like, oh, look, American citizens have been scooped up by ICE. Are American citizens illegal immigrants? Only if you ask the Native Americans, and that's the thing. And then they fire back with, well, oh yeah, you just know it all, don't you? You think you're smarter than me. And that's the point where my brain says, no, TJ, no.
Yeah.
Because I want to say, well, yeah, I kind of am, because I remember my high school civics. Clearly you don't. But it's so hard sometimes, Blue, to not engage, because I was raised my entire life of right versus wrong. And, I'm learning through adulthood that there's a lot of gray areas. And some of these to me aren't quite as gray. Like, that's illegal. Like, I think we saw this sometime in history. And you remind people of like negative history, when all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, that's not even the same thing. Yeah, it kind of is. Like, that's why I brought it up, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
But everybody talks about like the cancel culture. And my take on it, when like statues were falling down and they were changing names of buildings and this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, well, like, on the one hand, I can understand why military bases were renamed, because you don't want a base named after somebody who basically was a traitor against their own country. And you look at like Fort Hood or Fort Bragg or Fort Benning, those are named after Confederate generals. And they were awesome generals, don't get me wrong. But technically they took up arms against their own country. That makes them a traitor. And that's not something you kind of want. Christopher Columbus, okay, that's different, because he comes to the country, he kills a bunch of the natives and goes back to Spain. That I get. But right, wrong, or indifferent, history is not going to change because a few buildings change names or a few statues are changed. So that's part of the this is my side, that's your side, that nobody gets. Like, you don't want to recognize this because it was something bad they did, but you don't want to diminish their contributions to history either. And it's just really hard to have a conversation with anybody anymore, because everybody's lost the art of nuance. Like, you something sarcastic online, there's no tone. So what you meant as sarcasm is taken as being completely flippant about something.
Well, I think it's just a really hard time generally to have any of these conversations because of how tense and fraught everything feels. It's kind of a pick your battle situation. At least for me, and I'll go from my own experience. If there's somebody who is not agreeing with something that I'm saying that I either know to be true, or I know to be morally correct or just in some way, it's kind of a pick your battles thing of, am I going to be able to have a open enough communication with this person? Do I think that they're going to be open enough with me to potentially change their mind, or at least get them to think about it differently? And if that's true, then I can move forward. And if it's like a hard no, then I might not want to put myself through the strain of just eventually getting into just a head-on argument that goes nowhere. And I think it's the same with anything you see or read online from people that you may know from like you said, from high school, from anywhere else. I think it's the same thing there. It's kind of unfortunately a pick your battles sort of thing, where there are some people who they are not talking about these things or making these comments to have their mind changed. It might be near impossible to change their minds. And maybe by somebody, but maybe not by you. Like it's stressful to have to go through the thought process as well of like, do I go into this or not? But I think going headfirst into all of them, I think that decision is probably just going to lead to burnout for anybody. That's like, it's way too much, especially right now where we are societally. There's just a lot of people who they would probably rather cut off their foot than have somebody change their mind. And like, that's how far they're willing to take some stuff. And their reasoning behind that, I don't fully understand, but yeah.
No, I think our country just needs a really good mental health check.
We'd be lucky, I think, if we got that. I can really appreciate. I think it sucks at the same time that so much of this has fallen on my generation and the ones younger. I think this is really scary to be in the middle of, and I can appreciate how loud we are all being and the younger generations are being, while also at the same time thinking like, this sucks. Like, you shouldn't have to be doing this at this young an age. Like, being informed about what's going on in our world and in politics, amazing, but having to be at the forefront of the battle, you know, it's rough. It's rough on everybody who is younger, and I see it in person and I see it online, how negatively it is affecting everybody in really, intense ways. And that part sucks. And I also can at the same time love how much everyone is stepping up, and not wanting to let anything slide. And I think that just says how empathetic like our younger generations are right now, and caring for people that they don't know, for communities that they don't know, just more loving and caring. And I don't know, I hope that we're all loud enough to get things moving. And I think, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, or the night before, was a great example. I think New York had an incredible night. I think California, it felt really good to vote. after like,
I couldn't agree more.
it felt so good, and it was like, it was stressful, but it was such a good night. And I think that's what I mean. Like, I hope that we are loud enough. Like, that was a good night. And does give me, and I hope everybody else struggling, a little bit more hope in terms of like the next few years.
Well, that's actually one of the things. Like, my oldest stepson is just old enough to vote, and the way my wife put it is that I basically had been raised to vote since I was little, because my parents were very vocal about using your right to vote. And my dad especially said, you know what, if you don't vote, you don't get the right to complain. Like, voting is your chance to make that difference. If you don't like the way things are run right now, vote, and that'll be your voice. And I understand, like, the electoral college kind of messes things up for the presidential elections, but everything below the presidential election is like, the vote matters. You make that change with that vote you put in that box. I went to a military college right after high school, and one of the things that they have in the cadet creed is that suffrage is a sacred right. Like, sacred right. That's one of those things where you start hearing people saying, "Oh, don't worry, we'll probably be in a war for the next election, and you won't have to vote because I'll suspend voting." Like, no, time to flunk out here, sir. No, we can still vote. Like, we're that's fine. We can still vote. when people start taking those sacred rights away, that's when it becomes a problem. And until very recently, I haven't had that conversation with my stepson because he's timid when it comes to confrontation, and I can understand that. When I was a nerd way back when, I didn't like confrontation either. And then something just kind of flipped, and okay, here we go, confrontation, here we go. I'll stand up for anybody's rights and die trying if I have to. I mean, that's just how I was raised. And it's no different now. I mean, I see nothing wrong with letting people be people. It's not anybody else's business but that person's. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people in our country now need to learn, is that, hey, you know what? It doesn't really affect you. So maybe not worry about it.
Yeah. And it really is that simple. Like exactly what you just said. It is that simple. And it's the same thing of like let people be who they are, unless somebody is hurting somebody else in any way. Like they're just existing. Let them do their thing. And I don't know. It's things have gotten taken and people run with them for political reasons and to such extremes. And unfortunately, I guess for a lot of people, in very convincing ways, in ways that they see and they believe, or they read and they believe 100%. And those people might not or most likely don't have any trans people in their life, or queer people in their life, maybe even to check in with about it, to like fact check, to there's no other feedback. All you're getting is whatever is put in the news or on magazines or on Facebook, stuff like that. And there are a lot of people who will just read it and believe it, and not realize the damage that does. Yeah.
And it astounds me how many people will take something at face value.
Yeah.
Like there's that.
That's wild.
It was like I think it was buying something on the internet, and the person says, "Oh, hey, check out my boyfriend Pierre. He's from France. I met him on the internet, and if it's on the internet, it must be true." And yet nobody picks up on that.
Yeah, it's the internet's definitely complicated everything for a lot of reasons.
And,
I mean, it's also amazing.
AI, it makes it even harder to understand, because now somebody can make a very, very convincing video of very, very convincing people, and unless you look for like the subtle nuances, you're going to think it was real, and that's going to spread a rumor farther.
Yeah, the AI of it all is very, very, very terrifying, for so many reasons. But yeah, that is probably going to be added and is being added to the fire, more fuel to the fire in a scary way. But
I mean, I like looking like a character from Frozen, like anybody else, but beyond that, AI is getting to be ridiculously confusing.
It is. I mean, I'm pretty like vehemently against AI for most of the things that it is being used for on a broad scale and a grand scale, and how much money is being put into it and how terrible it is for the environment. And then the stuff on top of that of, people's jobs, and it, creating, people putting out false information with it, stuff like that, kind of all around is being used in all of the worst possible ways right now. But it's scary. It's really scary. But that's what I was going to say. That's also why I care so much about like using my voice as much as I possibly can, being as vocal as I possibly can and advocating for myself, for other trans people, for other queer people. And even though I'm not someone who I don't love being on social media. I don't really like it. If I didn't do this as my job, I probably wouldn't have like public accounts anywhere. But I know that because everyone is taking in so much media, and a lot of that media has false narratives about trans people, about queer people, about every kind of person in this country that is not white. There's so many false narratives that I feel like I have to put some true information into the mix, and whether that's being seen by the people who need to see it, I don't know. I can't know that. I don't have like a massive platform, but there's something there, and like I don't know. That's like how it feels like the least I can do is to kind of share on my own experience and put it into the mix and hope that that does any good, or at least makes the people who are more like me feel less isolated and less hopeless. Because I don't feel entirely hopeless. Like I genuinely think that queer people over the entire spectrum of queerness are some of the most incredible and unique and wonderful people in the world. And I know that this is not the end for people in any kind of way. I know that there is going to be a beautiful future for everyone as long as there is community and we rely on the community that we have. So I know I've said a lot of things that have been really scary and, you know, stressful and painful, but I am in no way completely hopeless. I think that, like, at the forefront, as long as we have each other and we have people to, you know, support us and we can support them, whatever that community looks like, whether it's family, found family, friends, that's going to keep everybody moving forward and keep some joy in there and safety.
And I honestly couldn't agree with you more. That I have that roller coaster where, like, oh, it's another one of those days. Like, well, maybe it's not so bad. Well, okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
You know, but you're right. If we all support each other, then, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to get through it. Like when the SNAP benefits got cut, my faith in humanity has been restored this week, even though, you know, there was a tremendous loss of a social safety net, because people actually stepped up and said, you know what? While the government shut down, you know, there was one restaurant who posted kids eat free. It's like, you know, one kid per customer per visit, but the kids eat free. Or there was another restaurant, I think it was in Oklahoma, that said, you know, if you're on SNAP benefits and you don't have food and you're hungry, come in for a free meal. And then it momentarily kind of lost control. And the restaurant proprietor said, you know, we don't really want to do this, but like, so we're not giving away free food to people who say they're poor. We're going to require an EBT card or proof of SNAP or whatever, because we want to make sure the people who need it are going to be able to get it. So my faith in humanity was restored this week just by watching that.
Yeah, it is and it was the same here. The amount of pre-existing food banks and then just new independent food banks that just put themselves out there, restaurants, even very small restaurants that, like, some of them even just said flat out, like, we don't really have the means to do this, but it's necessary and we're going to do it. In terms of free meals, kind of around the clock for families, for kids, that has been so encouraging. And I think the cool part, if there is a cool part in all of the crazy that is happening right now, is watching us as people revert back to what I think I think that we flourish the best in community, and we've become so individualistic and so like, what do I need? What's best for me? What's best, we've become so into that, that this revert to community and like pushing and fighting for other people, even people that you don't know, that has been really cool. That has been exciting. That's what keeps the hope going forward in a positive direction, is watching that, and watching that from people of all ages, not just young people. It's kind of everyone all over the map pushing for communities that they don't necessarily know. And we had the same thing here in LA a few months ago when ICE was stationed here. I could not have. I couldn't have believed. Yeah, the amount of people that showed up on the streets like every single day, a lot of them, was insane. It was insane, and that gave me so much hope. I mean, like, I don't know, that was really special. And so it's a weird butting of heads of like, yeah, everything is kind of a mess right now, and at the same time, this kind of push for community is so exciting, and I hope is what is keeping everybody afloat, seeing like how big we're willing to go as people right now to protect each other is huge.
Absolutely. And honestly, you see this with like 9/11, September 12th, people are coming out of the woodwork to help. Or during the pandemic, people were doing whatever they could to help everybody get by and get through. Yeah. And even now, like, there goes Snap. Now you've got people coming out of the woodwork to help. Like, you're absolutely right. The community factor and the fact that so many people want to help other people, I think that's a natural reaction of people that, for whatever crazy reason, people just don't consider anymore. And if you look at it, it actually kind of ties into, both your role on Star Trek and then Star Trek, as a community. That's kind of what Gene Roddenberry's wish was for people to get along, for people to be a community, for people who would normally argue, fight, have war, to get along, to be peaceful, to put greed away. Like the early episodes of Star Trek, if you've watched them, they don't have money. They've lost that need. And I mean, certain seasons of like Deep Space Nine, like, oh look, we got gold press platinum and we're using money again, but not the same.
Yeah.
But that reminds me, getting kind of back into Star Trek, when you took the role of Adira, did you research any of the previous Trill characters in the Star Trek universe, or was it just kind of, let's go and see what happens?
No, there's definitely research, especially with this. Like, Trek is massive, and there's so much history in there, and so it was like panic research of okay, I've got like 2 months. There is way more content than I could probably ever watch in those 2 months. And so I started researching stuff of like, which shows should I watch? Which character should I look out for? And asking people too in my life who specifically grew up with Trek or knew about Trek. And a lot of people said Deep Space Nine. And so I went with Deep Space Nine. And I've watched other bits of like other episodes from other like branches of the universe, but Deep Space Nine is the one that I loved and stuck a lot. Oh, I lost you for a second.
Lou, are you still there?
Yep. Oh, there you are.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I think we both mutually froze or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, not the internet again.
No.
I was talking with Olivia Youngers earlier from Picard, and
Mhm.
it froze up again. I'm like, oh boy. And like right in the middle, I'm switching from one Wi-Fi to the booster. I'm like, I'm giving it all I got, Captain. I can't give it the more. Just at that point, she popped back on the screen and she kind of smiled, and she kind of got that. So, but what I was saying before the comms went out was, the whole plan of Gene Roddenberry was for us to be united, not separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Trek does a really good job at giving us really like beautiful examples of that, and really like simple examples of it, um, in so many ways. But yeah.
I mean, the way your character developed was so genuine and so organic on screen that it flowed very easily. And
It
like
was,
like
yep.
like,
Yeah.
it doesn't always flow that easily in real life. So
Hmm.
you at least able to have that basis and kind of get the point across without a whole lot of the natural stumbling blocks from real life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we agreed from the get-go, with like the creative team that other than maybe sharing the information of wanting Stamets to use different pronouns for them for Adira, um, we didn't really want there to be further conversation about their gender. It was just meant to be like, yep, okay, we can bring it up, have an open dialogue here, and like an honest dialogue, and then that's kind of it. And that is a good example of like the simplicity version of everybody taking care of each other and being there for each other. It's we didn't have to go to crazy lengths to do that. It was pretty simple and straightforward and easy. And it was the same for Gray as well, where I don't think that we ever talked about Gray's gender once. We didn't. We definitely didn't.
No, I don't remember
And
that.
yeah, but I don't think we ever talked about Gray's gender in the show, and that was awesome as well. And like before we when we still didn't know if we were going to be doing another season, before the show ended, was when I had started testosterone, hormone replacement therapy, like in between those seasons, and we had set up a conversation that I had with Nick Adams again at GLAAD, about who's also a big Trekkie, about what can, like, do we want to talk about this in a way, like what would hormone replacement therapy look like in this moment in the Trek universe, like on Discovery, what would that look like? And so I sat with Nick and we had a long conversation about it, which that would have been really cool. And I was sad for so many reasons that we didn't get another season, but that I was really excited about that, to be like, what would this look like? What would gender affirming care look like in this universe, and on this ship where you sometimes think of something and it's there in front of you? What would that look like? And we came up with a lot of cool ideas. So I don't know. I hope that somewhere in some form of media, they get to do something like that in sort of a futuristic setting. I think that would be really awesome. But yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, just being able to have that character and have that conversation was a big step forward for it.
Yeah. I'm really grateful to have been able to do it and be there and do it with really amazing people. Like in front of the camera and behind. That whole team was really awesome.
And even Amos's character, for him and the Doctor, they were basically your in character dads. Like they took on that role and they did that role really amazing, and their response to your changes throughout the seasons was another authentic look. Like, this is how parents should address their children's gender transition or gender affirming care. They were very supportive, and honestly, that was a very good example.
It was a great example. Yeah, I loved that storyline kind of took form, that they sort of both became father figures for Adira and took care of them in a lot of ways. And did it, yeah, I think in a really beautiful way, like as a great example. Yeah.
So I'm gonna need to wrap up because, wow, I went a little over, but it's been a great conversation. Are we potentially gonna see you at Starfleet Academy? Maybe.
I mean, I would love it. I think like that would be so fun. That'd be really, really fun. I'm excited to see the show. And I think it would like make sense time-wise. It'd be really fun to do a little like pop-in, even just guest for an episode. That would be sick. Yeah, but as of right now, I don't know anything.
Like as we get off the call, you're gonna be like, Eva, hook me up.
No, it'd be awesome, and I want to give them like I want like I'm just excited to see the show, honestly. As a first thing, the trailer looks so good, and I'm excited to see where it goes and like have them like find their footing in the same way that like disco found its footing. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And when they said Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti, my jaw dropped. I'm like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
what? And I never knew that. I never even knew that Paul Giamatti was a Star Trek fan. I'm like, what?
It's
No.
so funny. It's so awesome. Yeah, I'm so psyched to see it.
Alrighty. Well, let me go ahead and finish this, and then I will meet you back in the green room in a minute, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.